Hello everyone, Alexa Dunn here, and welcome to the first of my YA thriller writing vlogs. I've had a new idea for a book, and it is indeed a YA thriller, which is something I have never written before, and it's going to mean some possible changes to my writing process, and I decided, hey, let's document this from the beginning on my channel. So this is vlog number 1, which is basically brainstorming and coming to terms with the fact that I think I have to outline a book. I'm scared. So if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that I am a pantser. I like to fly by the seat of my pants when I write books, and this hasn't been a problem for me so far. And I would fairly say that I'm more of a planter or a gardener, so I have like an in-between style. There's definitely structure to my writing, but I don't tend to know things scene to scene before I write them, and the joy of the writing process for me is discovery of the unknown, and I do tend to discover things partway through my draft, often 2/3 through my draft, that mean huge changes for the rest of the book, but it's just a part of my process, and then I really enjoy revision. So this works for me because I'm not daunted by getting to the 60,000 word mark and going, oh, there's the book, and then rewriting the first 2 acts. But it's a thriller. People die. There's a murder. It's a mystery. And I know logically that thrillers require much more immaculate structure, and that rewriting a thriller is a whole other can of worms, because essentially in my plantsing process, I write to kind of discover my 3rd act, essentially, and to figure out my characters as I go. And then kind of knowing the 3rd act, the end game, helps me to form and shape the 1st and 2nd acts better. They usually don't change completely, but they get like an essential, it's like a thread that I pull through to tighten everything. But with a YA thriller, you really have to know your end before you begin. You have to know who your characters are. You have to know who your victim is. You more or less have to know who your murderer is, though I have thoughts on that. And so, welcome to Alexa Tries to Outline. Kind of. I've decided to be nice to myself and not do an insanely structured outline, because I do indeed think that's going to kill the joy of writing for me. It's why I don't really outline. But I'm really going to the beats on this one. I'm really going to be writing stuff down ahead of time and figuring stuff out ahead of time, and I'll document that as much as I can. I think I'm probably going to do a beat sheet. I think that's where I'm going to start, because I don't mind plot beats. I like plot beats. I write to them subconsciously as I draft. And the thing is, YA thrillers have formulas. So let me talk about the brainstorming before I whine about outlining. So what happened? I've had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to write a YA thriller for a long time, but I knew no point in trying to write a YA thriller if I didn't have a really great hook for it. I knew that the murder and the motive and the hook and the reason to write it all would come from figuring out what that je ne sais quoi about it would be and why I would be the right person to write it. So thrillers are one of my favorite genres to read. I mainline thrillers all the time, mostly in adult. Some of my favorite writers are thriller writers. But of course in YA, I write science fiction and fantasy. Now, my YA science fiction fantasy, if you read it, it's very fluffy, it's very soapy, but there's always murder in it. I do like to throw a little murder. I do like to have kind of some twisted people in my books with, you know, messed up motives for doing bad things. So that part is pretty organic to me, but YA thrillers are obviously contemporaries, and my thing about contemporary, my exception for contemporary, is a contemporary has to be very high concept for me to want to read it and want to write it. So, thriller. 2 days before Thanksgiving, I had a light bulb, a brainwave, and it's so funny. This is how idea genesis works, brainstorming, and I'm sharing this with you because maybe this is how you work, and this will help you to think long game, because the thing is, a piece of this that I'm slotting into place here is an idea I had at least a year ago, and what's so funny is I forgot I had this idea, and I went into a chat with a friend saying, oh my gosh, I have this amazing idea for a YA thriller. And she goes, this sounds really familiar. Are you sure you didn't tell me this idea before? And I was like, no. And I kept going, and then I was like, oh no, I did. So I came up with a part of this idea, a conceptual part of the idea a while ago. And it's something that kind of connects into an area in which I am an expert, is the best way I'm going to put it. I'm not going to overly share until this has firmed up more. I'm still at the point where I know I want to write it, but I'm still not 100% sure I'm going to write it or how this slots into my career, because this really has nothing to do with my brand, except it could, because my plan is to write kind of like a soapy, really fun, like a more mature kind of Pretty Little Liars style, meaning Pretty Little Liars now as it would sit in the market would be considered upper middle grade, which is weird. So meaning I would definitely do kind of that hard, like 18-year-old YA thriller, but I would make it soapy. A lot of the top YA thrillers in the market aren't extra soapy, and I like to bring the soap and the froth to things. But it's the hook, the thing around which the murder is going to center, is an area in which I am an expert, and that's what kind of unlocked it for me. I was like, well, how could I write a book about this thing that I've been wanting to write about, but that would mean I have to write a YA contemporary? And then I went, obviously someone gets murdered, and then it just all started clicking from there. So what have I been doing to brainstorm this book pre-outline? So here's what it's really going to be, and luckily this does jive with my normal book brainstorming process. I talked to said friend, same friend, who has outlined a YA thriller before, and I asked how did she do it? Like, what were her tips? And she said she couldn't actually figure out the outline until she knew all of the characters. She had to know all of her main characters, which included her murderer, her victim, and her POV protagonist. My friend says she came up with 5 years of backstory for 5 principal characters, and coming up with the backstory and who these people were is what helped her figure out, okay, who dies, why, what are the motives, what are the red herrings? And I was like, this sounds just like my brainstorming process, hallelujah. Except there's going to be less of me figuring out the characters as I write them. I'm going to have to figure out who they are ahead of time. So that's what I have been working on. I have been working on my character profiles / archetypes. They don't even have names yet, but I've started to figure out the types that they are and how they might slot into a friend group and who's gonna die and why. I know who's gonna die at the start. I'm not 100% set on the murderer, but I know the motive, and the motive is actually, that's the hook for me. That is what I know I can structure this novel around, and because I know the motive, I know where the book ends, which is so huge for me. So I feel like I already am partway there to outlining. It's gonna be very loosely structured outlining. And now I am refilling my well, which is an essential part of the book creation and brainstorming process for me. I'm reading a ton. I am currently out of my reading slump, yay, and I'm on a book binge. I'm just binging all of the YA thrillers that I haven't read yet. I do actually read them regularly, yay! So I wasn't as far behind as I would be otherwise. But yeah, I'm almost done with my second one. I'm feeling those kind of juices flowing of like, oh, I love reading and I'm having ideas. The thing is, the ones I'm reading aren't exactly like mine, but they're still kind of helping me get into that mindset of tone and atmosphere and structure. And I bought a ton of books, and I have basically a book schedule set up for myself. Tons and tons of YA thrillers that I can read the entire month of December, and that's my plan for December because work is bonkers and I know I don't have the brain space to actually draft. But, so I'm reading all of these books, and by the end of the month, God willing, I'm going to have a loose outline. So loose. Because YA thrillers have certain beats that you want to hit, and I need to figure out what those beats are ahead of time within my world. I need to know, okay, what's my inciting incident? I mean, the inciting incident is murder, but you know what I mean. What is the break into 2? What is my midpoint turn? I need to figure out all of those ahead of time, because the thing about YA thrillers, or a YA thriller, it has beats it has to hit. In a sense, it almost has a formula, but also they're short. My aim is to draft this quick and dirty. I want to just write for like 2 months straight, and I want to get this done. Because my end goal would be 50 or 60,000 words for a draft, which is so short for me, which in and of itself is like fun. I love that this essentially represents a writing break for me because it's not a 100,000 word draft that I have to do. Which brings me to, how does this slot into my career and my plans, because this is unexpected. I wasn't expecting to have a really great idea for a YA thriller that I want to write like right now. Well, I am still developing a fantasy for my option for my publisher, and I still really love that fantasy, but I kind of have still been in kind of brainstorming mode for that fantasy. I have written that up to Act 2, the break into 2, and I had an idea for Act 2 that kind of impacts Act 1, so I already kind of had a revision plan forming. And what I like about working on this YA thriller right now and kind of doing it as my fun break book while I have the time is that it's going to be a fun break book. And I actually think fast drafting this YA thriller is going to contribute to refilling my well on the fantasy option. The fantasy option has potential to be a big book, meaning it's definitely big in that it's an undertaking for me. It's going to be, my guess is, 100K draft. But I want it to be splashy and big and fun. I want to work on my own world building and characterization in that book so that it's more layered and complex than it currently is, because right now it's just an idea in 20,000 words. And that requires time. I'm not in a rush to turn in my option. It's actually kind of nice. I don't have a set deadline, so all I have are the deadlines I'm imposing on myself. And so I've decided I'm going to focus the first few months of 2019 and of course this last month of 2018 working on this idea, just kind of writing this book for fun. I'm gonna write a book for fun that is not for my publisher. And then I'm gonna go from there. I'm really excited, I'm energized, I'm hoping I do this. I think I'm gonna do this. I really do. I'm energized by the idea, which is exciting. But it's going to be a journey because this is so outside of my comfort zone in terms of outlining and kind of the genre. But then again, it's like, I love to read this genre, so the challenge to myself is write one. I think it's a good idea, and I think I'm the only YA author who can write this idea because the hook is that line of expertise that I have. And that's definitely a piece of advice I have to you. This goes into write what you know. It doesn't always mean write exactly what you know, but it does mean that you can lean into the things that you know really, really well and find creative and interesting ways to form books around them. And that's what I'm really energized by. I'm energized by tapping into this thing that I really know and like and making it twisty and fun for YA and murdering people. Oh, and to put a cap on the beginning of the thought trail that I started and didn't quite finish was, I'd clearly had nuggets of this idea before, but I'd never put all of kind of the nuggets and ideas and ingredients together to be, this is my pitch for a YA thriller novel. And so that's my encouragement to you. You might have nigglings and thoughts and ideas for things that you know you want to write, but you just don't quite know what that means, what it means put together. You can't come up with a sexy plot idea or pitch, and so don't pressure yourself. You'll cycle back around to those ideas at the right time and be able to gel them together into something that works. So, you know, never give up on an idea, but know that there's nothing wrong with tabling something until you're ready for it. So I love that my subconscious buried this idea that I'd already had, and then it came back to me and it felt fresh and new, giving a new twist because, you know, murdering people. So that's it. YA thriller vlog number 1, which is brainstorming and the horror of having to outline. Kind of. I told Kat and she cackled, but I'm also gonna make her help me, so that's great. So that's where I am with this. We'll see what the next update is. It might be me outlining. It's gonna be okay. So thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I will make more vlogs in the series. This is one where you're gonna get to see a book start to finish, from idea generation hopefully to the final copy, and I'm really excited by that. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. Thank you so much for watching, and as always guys, happy writing.